8 a.m. and call this Redevelopment Commission meeting to order. Do roll call. BJ. Present. Paul. Here. Ann. Here. Ken. Here. Kristen. Here. And Richard works here. So we have a full agenda, a quorum. Need a motion for the minutes of the April 20th meeting to approve. So moved. We have a motion, a second.
Second.
Second. And thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, moving on to old business. Krista, the Shell building.
The Shell building is sold.
Yay.
So I will elaborate a little bit more on that later in your cash flow and the financial reports, but just wanted to let everybody know that that was final and we are no longer the owners of that building, and they're working and hope to be open later this year. So thanks for everybody's help on that. That was definitely a joint effort.
And I'm glad we got that project started, and I'm glad it finished, and thank you, Mayor, and all the support. Want to mention one other thing in our old business. The Arbor Day celebration of Bureau Forest was a success. Franklin's at Tree City, USA, and the mayor and the Rotary were there to honor Jim Crane, who was instrumental in getting that started. Any other old business? New business. The determination of no excess TIF.
Yeah, this is an annual requirement that we do each year. We're required by June 15th to notify all of the overlapping taxing units if we have any excess assessed value that we want to pass through. And so this is just on your agenda in advance. We have a letter for the president to sign, and then that gets distributed to all of those taxing entities. Rob, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, or if anybody has any questions.
I need a motion then to sign this letter representing the RDC. It should have been in your packet.
Make a motion for the president to sign.
Thank you, Ken. A second? Second. Have a second, Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the Indiana Redevelopment Commission key dates and annual requirements.
Yeah, and this is just kind of a summary that I thought was helpful. This was put out by Baker Tilly, and this includes what we just did. So just to kind of give everybody a reminder that we give an annual report. You get those monthly, so it's not like you don't get a financial report every month. Some commissions apparently, I guess, don't do that, but we do. And then April 15th, this is something that kind of flies under the radar, but this is something that Jane takes care of through the gateway system. So before April 15th of each year, she and I partner up and get this submitted through the gateway. If anybody ever wants to see that information, you're welcome to see it. It'll also be part of this June 15th is what we just did, the determination of excess incremental assessed value, and then also this last heading on here, it just says required annually, that we're required to give a presentation of information to overlapping taxing units. So that information that Jane uses in that gateway report is included in this report. Then we typically have Jeff Peters do this annual report along with Rob's help, and that will be reported here at one of your meetings, and then the other taxing units will be invited to it, and then we'll also do it at the city council level as well, and then they can attend at the city council meeting as well. Rob, I don't know if I don't see here where there's a deadline for that, or if it's just one time during each year we have to do it. I thought there was a deadline, but I don't see that in this report, so. I know it's changed, I feel like each year, so maybe they've eliminated that you just have to do it once a year. I don't know, but just to give you a heads up, and then also, to also get permission to contract with Jeff Peters to prepare that report and get that on your agenda and on the city council's agenda. And I think that's a great yearly reminder just of, the overall tax impact that the redevelopment commission has, and then also just a list of projects and kind of an update for the council to hear as well.
Any questions for Kristen?
So I don't know if do I need a formal motion then, Rob, to do that, or just go ahead and do it?
Or not to retain Jeff.
To retain Jeff, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, we would enter a motion to approve Jeff Peters to assist for the TIF annual reports.
So move.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great.
Next, we have the Commerce Drive and Simon Road roundabout discussion. Mayor?
I had the agenda. So I think we're brought up the roundabout, is that what?
Yes, roundabout, Commerce Drive and Simon Road.
Okay, yeah, talking with Trent, Newport, Crossroads, been working with the schools, and we see a need there for the roundabout because of the traffic backup. And Trent's here, I think he hears us talking, since I didn't hear you, then But anyway, Trent's here to talk a little bit about it. He's been in conversation with the schools. And I think the main thing is, and I think Rob answered that, is which TIF, if we choose to do that, we would use. It would be the 31 TIF, is what Rob, I seen the email, he thought it made the most sense. And Krista and Mark and I got together this week and went through kind of our long-term plan, and that fits in, I think, in 2023, I believe, is what we figured it would fit in. So I don't think Trent, you want to come up? I don't think we're here for any kind of vote today or anything like that. We're just here to put it on the radar that it's a project that would help the school, also help with redevelopment with the housing that's we see that's wanting to go that way.
Is this in that same cost category?
Yes.
1.6.
Yeah, close to that, yeah. Sure.
Thank you. Trent Newport with Crossroads Engineers. Yeah, if you zoom in there, Krista, you kind of see that the school has property on the I guess it's to the right a little bit, right?
Sorry.
At the school entrance to the south end. Right.
Right here,
Over to the right.
this one.
Simon, right there. So this is Simon and the main entrance to the high school. If you zoom in there, just, I don't know if you can a little bit, the school owns the property on the north side, and they have expressed the desire to partner in the project by donating the necessary right-of-way. They obviously have some land there. There is a legal drain there to the north. And so we'll have to, that kind of limits how far you can shift it north. And the further you shift around up north, and if you can imagine, the east-west legs have to go with it. And so the further you shift it north, the bigger the cost gets. So we would shift it north as reasonably as we could and take advantage of the donated right-of-way and kind of that dead space that the school has there, stay out of the legal drain, stay away from impacts to the lift station that's right there on the left side of the screen, but minimize the impacts on the south side of the intersection. So minimize the right-of-way on the south side. But very similar in cost and size and impacts to the bypass roundabouts that you've seen. Obviously, 200 is a lot of traffic. Has been improved to the west by the county. So kind of similar in that same size. We just, I think you just had one you looked at recently for Burleywood and Graham, and similar size on that one as well. And I think the discussions with the city has been, if whether Burleywood and Graham was set for 23 construction. Graham and Commerce is set for 22 construction. if funding is an issue, then the decision would be, do you push this one to 23 and move Earlywood Grand back, or do them both in 23? They're not close to each other where they would impact either construction-wise. Obviously, this one you want to construct during the school summer and make sure to get it done during that window because it would have a big impact on the school access. Be happy to answer any questions.
Will this handle semi-traffic?
Yes, absolutely.
I just noticed there's more semis out on that road now.
Yeah, I don't, not as much as the bypass, but certainly not little enough that you don't need a design for it. But yes, that's why it would be similar size as the ones on the bypass, but still, still a one-lane roundabout in each direction. We might look at a turn lane, what a turn lane would look like on that northeast corner for a slip lane, if you will, going into the school. And, that kind of thing, again, with being able to utilize right-of-way that the school would grant, and that might make sense, but that'd be the only thing that might be a little different than the bypass roundabouts.
Seems like that would be a wise choice.
Yeah, I think based on the volume, it would probably make a lot of sense. Obviously, the most of their volume is coming from the east, and a slip lane there into the school might make a lot of sense. So that'd be the one thing we would look at. The asphalt, I know we've gone with concrete due to the volume of truck movements on the bypass, but I think this one would be an asphalt roundabout.
And maintain still 1.6 and be an asphalt?
Yeah, actually, the concrete roundabouts will typically be a little bit more in construction, but for instance, if we have a slip lane there, then that might balance that cost out. But actually, concrete roundabouts will run a little bit more cost than asphalt.
Is there less maintenance with concrete?
There is, but I can talk to you, put my nerd hat on all day here about the trade-offs, because what happens is when you do have to maintain concrete, it's a lot more intense and costly, but it stretches that time out further. But it holds up better to higher truck volumes, and so you could probably get arguments on both sides as far as the cost maintenance benefit of both. But they definitely, with the trucks, that's where we really want it because it holds up a longer amount of time. I don't think in this case the volume of trucks would, would put us in that recommendation.
Okay. Any questions?
So, at our next Board of Works meeting, it will be on our Board of Works agenda. And then if we want to do that project, then we'll bring it to you and see if you guys are interested in funding the project. So, probably your next meeting, it may be on your agenda.
So I don't know if you wanted me to bring up this has been added to the cash flow analysis. But now it might make more sense to talk about now than later, but if that helps you, Mayor, they're kind of listed there and some timing and dollar amounts.
Yeah, and what we looked at the other day, it looks like that we're going to be able to, unless a surprise comes that we're not anticipating, that we should be able to do both roundabouts in 23 by utilizing both tip areas.
Yeah, I think the proximity to the US 31 TIF, because that actual allocation area is right at US 31 and Commerce Drive on both sides, north and south, on the west side of that intersection. But Commerce Drive is also east of that, part of the integrated TIF. So really it touches pretty much both TIF districts, but I think the US 31 TIF district is a little closer to that than the other ones.
Any other questions for me? I did have one thing that we could have brought up later, probably in the comments, when I was talking to Dana about. There's a redevelopment commission, county redevelopment commission, Monday at 4:30. The TIF is going to be on the agenda, and Mr. Adam Stone, that was here last meeting that we talked about, has prepared his study, and he'll be presenting that commission. So
You said that's Monday at 4:30,
Monday at 4:30,
next door?
and yes.
It's on your agenda, 6C, so you have the date and time, and it's at the annex building. I think it's 86 I'd love to see you there though, just, I know that we will also have them present that information to you probably at your next month's meeting, depending on how that goes, but also just to show support, I think would be helpful to the Johnson County Commissioners and the Johnson County Redevelopment Commission, so if you're able to attend that.
Is that the commissioners meeting or the
Well,
parties?
I think they call it a special joint meeting because the 3 commissioners are 3 of the 5 redevelopment commission members. So they kind of overlap because you have 5 members on the redevelopment commission, but 3 of them are the county commissioners. So I think they have to advertise it as a joint meeting of the commissioners and the redevelopment commission. So whatever you'd like to call it, but it is really their redevelopment commission meeting, so.
I did want to mention one more thing in respect to the timing of it. NDOT working on US 31 is still targeted for 23, but that'll be probably start at the south end, so the detours wouldn't affect us. So that would probably be the best window to get this done during that summer before construction gets up in that area of 31 and could impact detour routes and so forth. So that might be the other consideration of trying to make sure that this one gets done in 23 versus waiting until after.
Makes sense.
And I can bring some more information on that and some phasing. We're not finalized with phasing right now, but we have something kind of sketched out, and I can bring some more information on that when we bring this back.
That'd be good, Chris.
Thank you.
Chris, new business, financial.
Here. So you have your April financial reports. We should have our tax, as everybody knows, taxes are due in May, but we don't get the actual disbursement until June, so it won't be until July that we know that you get a financial report with those numbers, but as soon as I have those numbers, I'll email you. But we are expecting around $2 million in property taxes paid in May and then received in June. Revenue is pretty low, it's just interest on our accounts. We haven't had any grant reimbursements yet this year. And then you can just see the balances of each of these resolutions. I added G&H's Economic Development Agreement there at the bottom from your last meeting. But still looking really good financially. We have the year-to-date expenditures for the end of April, $942,000, which would leave us with that cash balance of 5.9, but our remaining appropriations of just over $4 million. So if all of those resolutions were spent by the end of the year, we would still have a cash balance of 1.8. So just happy to see that number positive again and almost $2 million, so that's a good thing. Any questions on the April report? The next page is, this is for the US 31 TIF district. And this is where that US 31 TIF project is being paid out of our match there. So that's, you can see that there, that's through the bond. So that bond payment's been made in January, and then there'll be another bond payment in July. We have Mark and Chip here today and the mayor to talk a little bit about some of these additional projects and expenses that we have for the amphitheater park here at the bottom. So we've updated that a little bit to show you that once the bond payments, or once all of the bond funds are expended, that there's going to be some additional costs out of this account. And so I don't know, Mayor, if you want to start that or how you want to handle that, but I know we wanted to talk through a little bit about the additional playground surfacing and then the signage.
Yeah, Chip, come on up here just a second. So I remember when we first started talking about the amphitheater project, the redevelopment commission at that time said, I think it was even you that said this, that we don't want to, we were talking about phasing things in, and you made a comment, we'd rather just do it all at one time. So that's why we've got with Chip and Mark and what is it exactly that we're going to need to finish the project. And this is what Chip and And Boy Mangland Chip has come up with, so we'll get you.
Thank you. If you know me, you can't believe there's only 2 items on this thing, believe it or not. The first one is the playground surfacing. So the original playground bid had 2 kinds of surfacing on the playground. If you remember, probably don't remember a picture of it, it's a fairly large playground, has a fairly large central piece to it that was poured in place surfacing. If you don't know what that is, you've been to Blue Heron Park. It's the only park in Franklin we have the actual safety surfacing on. There are 4 or 5 pods that sit next to this main piece of the playground that were originally going to be put in mulch, and we decided, not only from a safety standpoint, but just for basically to do it right the first time, to go back and put those pods back in as safety servicing, like the main piece of it. And that's where the $108,000 is to put those 5 pods into the board in place servicing. The other piece is the amphitheater signage. It's amazing when you get into a huge project, the things that kind of fall through the cracks that you don't think about. And signage is one of them that we need to address. Signage can be all kinds of different things. It can be rules and regulation signs. It can be amenity signage. It could be the sponsor of the amphitheater signage. So we just have a placeholder number in there. I don't think we're going to spend $100,000, but we wanted to put it there just in case. That's really the 2 additional pieces I see on here that we added.
The construction contract has had 4 change orders issued, one being the pickleball courts at $96,000. The other 3, one is abutment work on the old railroad abutments where we're going to install the pedestrian bridge. That was around $61,000. Second one is the foundation work that was done for the band shell. There were poor soils in the underneath where the foundation was going to was built. We had installed what are called aggregate piers in order to stabilize the area. That was about a $65,000 change order. And then, Trent, you recall the other one was about a $10,000.
I think it had to do with, we found a bunch of trash and concrete out there that we had to dig out and remove. And so it was just stuff that wasn't known that was out there underneath the soil.
So our total change orders are roughly about $240,000 at this point in the project. We don't foresee anything other than maybe quantity adjustment from here on out on the site preparation and construction. So if you happy to answer any questions.
Is this 240 in here? Or is it addition?
It should already be in the.
It's already in here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark, do you want me to update on where we're at?
Sure.
Mayor asked me to give you an update on construction. Essentially, the band shell, roof, and steel beams have been installed. They're installing concrete for the structure itself. Also installing stone for the to actually pour the concrete on. The restrooms are nearing, the exterior is nearing completion. I think the east restroom is all of masonry work's done. They're in process on the one on the northwest side of the band shell. Grading work is progressing. Storm sewers, parking lots. You're starting to see things come together, so it's moving along. The estimated completion is somewhere in the, probably I would say October 1st date. It's going to depend somewhat on weather, and a lot of the work the last month is going to be things like landscaping, sod, that sort of thing.
Pedestrian bridge is set.
Oh yeah, the pedestrian bridge is supposed to be set the first week of June or thereabouts.
Their schedule says middle of June, but they said in a meeting first week of June, so somewhere in that first or second week of June.
So that might be interesting for people to come out and take a look at.
I think they're gonna set it from a crane on the south side of the creek, right?
Yeah, where your heart at.
Yeah, Chip, what you're asking the RDC for is the signage and the playground covering
Yeah, the servicing, that's correct.
in addition to,
That's correct.
so these are two new items.
That would be perfect. And just to give you a quick update, the playground is actually there on site. It's scheduled to be installed here in the next couple of weeks, and we're starting to get the equipment for the splash pad. It's starting to get good. I'm a part, you're starting to see things come out of the ground, which is good.
Just for the, Chip, don't go away, the board, have all of you been out to the Blue Hare Park and the surface? That is really nice, and I think your reputation, that would be a big asset for our community to have that type of surface.
How does that, can you elaborate a little bit on that as far as like the floodway and the impacts of that?
Yeah, so one of the reasons why it's sitting in Blue Heron Park is because you recall the old playground at Blue Heron Park was just flooded like just 5 or 6 times a year. And it was starting to wash away all the play surfacing and all those things. And that's what I was concerned about. One of my concerns about this place is if it did flood, it would just basically wash all that play mulch away. And this actually can sustain flooding. You just go with the pressure washer and pressure wash it off and we're done. So the maintenance cost alone, we're gonna say, is maybe $100,000 for 10 years, the cost of it. So I think it's the way to go.
Chris, does this need to come back in a formal?
I don't think it does, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think because the bond funds are already appropriated, it just was more of a discussion item to make sure you guys were on board with the additional expense and just to show it on our cash flow.
I agree. So we don't need to take any action.
Well, it's not currently identified as a permissible expenditure, so we probably ought to have a motion to approve that.
Well, once the bond is fully expended, depending on where we're at with the projects, we will have to do actual resolutions to pay for these expenses, at which time you'll approve them through resolution out of the US 31 TIF. We just don't need to do that until we're out of bond funds.
Okay.
So it's kind of just a timing issue to let you know that this is why the bond balance is negative and that there will be resolutions needed once all of those bond funds are expended. And I don't know, does it make sense to do that now? Or I was thinking we would just prepare those resolutions when we're closer to running out of bond funds.
No, I agree with that. I meant that in order to pay it out of the bond, we ought to have a motion
Sure.
to do that.
Yeah.
And I know Chip, he's gonna figure out a way to get those costs down.
I'll try.
So we'll just wait then until we get ready to spend the money.
I think Rob would prefer a motion to add it
You
to
can do it
the.
now.
We can make a motion
To approve those 2 expenditures up to that amount out of the bond funds.
okay? We will entertain a motion to approve the playground surfacing and amphitheater signage to be paid out of bond funds when appropriate.
So moved.
Have a motion, second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chip.
And that was kind of a long version of the of the financial report, but are there any questions? You can see the estimated cash balance at the end of this year, even with those expenses deducted from the US 31 TIF bond, we're still at 1.274 on that. And then the last page just shows you a detailed breakdown of what's been spent out of those individual line items and where we're at. The balance beginning the area expenditures, we have some invested, and then the remaining appropriations for bond.
Thank you. What about the cash flow?
So the cash flow, we've covered a lot of this, but what I do want to make sure I point out, I know this is hard to see, but I did add under approved projects, the sale of the Shell Building 2. So in the second quarter, you'll see a negative $490,860. And that is the refund that we got in the form of a check from closing on the Shell Building. So if you recall, we purchased that land from the Linvilles. And so we have been reimbursed now for a majority of that land that we paid for with the sale of that Shell Building. So that did good things for our cash flow. And then that $41,800 was the amount that was still in that account at Horizon that we did not spend on the actual construction of the Shell Building, so we were refunded that back as well. So those both hit in the second quarter. The other positive impact is, you'll see Resolution 21-04. It was Shell Building number 2 loan payments for 2021. So if we had not sold the Shell Building this year, you would have had here on this line, 2104, there was an additional $218,000 that we would have owed this year. And so that would have been deducted from your cash flow. So really over a $700,000 impact, positive impact to your cash flow with the sale of the Shell Building. So that's exciting to see. Those were not listed on here before just because we didn't know exactly when that was going to occur. So when you look down here below, the projected total fund balances are really healthy this year compared to last year for sure. So those are the main highlights. We covered a lot of some of these projects under consideration here, but we already covered the Commerce and Simon Road. And then just one thing we wanted to mention, we did have Bartram Parkway on here last month, but in talking to the mayor and Mark, they're considering whether we do some patching this year and then a complete mill and overlay next year. But then Mark, I think you were going to apply for some community crossings funds to see if we could potentially get some of that expense covered, at least 50%. So those are just there to kind of keep in mind as placeholders for you as well. And then again, just keep in mind we have the Yandy Street project coming up as far as late this year and then next year. And then you just have the other roundabouts on the truck bypass listed there for you as well. I struggle keeping the order of those straight. Which one are we doing this year? Which one are we doing next year? So I always try to have those there. Actually, I have a Post-it note on my desk with the order of things so that I can remember because they're confusing to me. But any questions there on the cash flow? This is looking a lot better. So it's good to see.
Thank you, Kristen. Any comments from the board members? Amanda? Anything?
It's been another busy month. We've had some site visits, which has been exciting, and we've got Celebrate Aspire on Thursday. It's our annual awards and annual meeting. And Community Matters coming up, I think, on the 26th. So, yeah, it's been busy.
Marty, what about downtown?
Downtown.
And the farmer's market?
Everything's moving along, hopefully back to normal. Strawberries is for the 28th. We got everything ordered and in order. Getting stuff, set up. Markets would come east toward the county building, that parking lot. Got over 40-some vendors lined up for that. So temporary this year until we get the amphitheater area for the farmers market set up, maybe for next year, hopefully. And like I say, if everything goes well, it's planned to be back to normal again, whatever normal is.
Hopefully we're down there without masks.
But everything's ordered and ready for this beautiful weather.
Rob?
The aircraft has its lights back on again. We're actually showing with movies every weekend now, and thanks to the school corporation, lots of field trips. So it is a great thing to just have the energy back in that building. So we're very pleased, and we are waiting based on the different CDC announcements as to when things will change for more than 30% or 185 seats based on spacing and all of that. So keep you posted.
And happy birthday to you.
Well, thank you.
Today is Rob's birthday.
39?
Yes, again.
Mark?
Just wanted to let everyone know that the West Annex parking lot will be closed Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week for repaving. So they'll do milling on Thursday, repaving on Friday. Could be down Thursday as well, but just depends on the weather. And then striping the lot on Saturday.
Chip, I have one last question down here as swimming pool, because my grandkids asked me about that.
It's a good question. It actually opens this Saturday at 11 a.m. And last time I looked, it was going to be 88 degrees. So
Yep. It's a great.
Ought to have a good day.
I don't know who planned that, but you're smart.
Richard, really quick, I want to remind everybody too that this Saturday is the senior parade for the high school. I don't know the exact route. Does anybody, Tara, do you know?
Yeah, I do. It starts at the middle school. It's the traditional like Franklin or the Fall Festival parade route. I'll post it on the city's Facebook page today, and you guys check it out and share it.
Yeah, even if you don't have a senior, it was pretty cool. I went last year, but those kids had a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad to know we'll get back doing something for our seniors.
Yeah, and then graduation will be the next weekend, so it'll be outside.
But it's still closed, isn't it? Just the 4 tickets.
There's just 4 tickets per student, yeah. And it'll be at the football field, 10 a.m. Saturday morning. So, thank you.
Dave?
Meeting today with the company to work on the dumpster enclosure over off Veterans Alley. So hopefully that'll be a nice project you'll see coming together pretty soon.
Any other?
Yeah, just a reminder, Mayor mentioned earlier, on Monday, May 24th at 4:30, the County Redevelopment Commission meeting. And then this Saturday, Chip, is the Festival Country kickoff. Friday, that's my thought, it's Friday. So I don't know if you want to give a rundown on that, but it's
I can.
the first festival in a while. So.
First festival in a while, that's correct. So Festival Country is a new event that we're doing this year. It's in partnership with Festival Country, the tourism organization here in the county. So there'll be all kinds of different booths and vendors at this event that have other events this summer. So in other words, you're going to see Mallow Run, and you'll get information on their events. And I think Greenwood Parks and Edinburgh Parks and all kinds of Apple Works and all kinds of different places you're going to be at this festival on Friday. There'll also be a huge car show. I think we're up to 12 food vendors because they're knocking down our door because they want to get back into the business. There's also a concert that starts at 7, which is My Yellow Rickshaw. And I believe the Art Craft has a movie that evening as well. So finally, hopefully, we're going to get back to a little normalcy with the hits in Franklin, and it starts this Friday.
Thank you.
What time to start, Chip, you know?
Around 5 o'clock.
Okay. Is it Saturday as well?
That's just Friday.
This Friday.
If there's nothing else, the meeting's adjourned.